Hello guys, welcome back to LR Anime. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is explanation of upcoming episode of Swallowed Star 2 Land of Origin based on novel. So let's start. A woman in green stood atop a tall building, gazing at the vast and endless Chu capital. Is it worth it to come to Chu capital just for cultivation? The woman in green silently pondered. In her small town on the fringe, there were only a few dozen eternal true gods, and with her strength, she was one of the most powerful in the town, naturally leading a comfortable life. In the small fringe town, I could never acquire powerful heritages, and breaking into the primal chaos realm seemed hopeless. But since coming to Chu capital, I quickly found a heritage that suited me. I even obtained quite a few resources, and now my strength could be described as at the limit of an eternal true god, thought the woman in green. With a heritage and resources, she had improved her strength, mastered several primal chaos realm moves, and now saw a glimmer of hope in advancing into the primal chaos realm. I've gained opportunities, but troubles have followed, the woman in green worried. If it weren't for the help of my good friend Marquis Chu Le, I would likely be living a life worse than death right now. But Marquis Chu Le, being a third-rate member of the imperial clan, holds no real power. The woman in green had been in Chu capital for quite some time, where she established Shallow Whisper Pavilion, drawing many guests through music and illusion technique, even attracting many noble patrons. Chu capital had many powers, and she had traded some sacrifices for cultivation heritage and some resources. I've been very careful in Chu capital, cautious at every step, even afraid to control the minds of any noble guests. Still, trouble came, she felt distressed. In Chu capital, where powers are deeply entangled, even a first-rate marquis of the imperial clan fights fiercely against others. She, a mere eternal true god, despite being careful, was still dragged into a dark vortex. Suddenly, the woman in green noticed two figures approaching. A man in black, accompanied by a naive-looking servant. Great Saint Luo he? The woman in green recognized him at a glance, her heart skipping a beat, feeling as if the sky itself had brightened considerably. She immediately went forward to greet them. The main building of the Shallow Whisper Pavilion. Just a few of your best songs, Luo Feng said as he sat down, while Morosa munched on food and drink beside him, accustomed to his master enjoying some music. But music didn't really interest the sector beast. Luo Feng was quite interested, although there were many performers at the previous discourse banquet. That was not a suitable occasion for deploying the 7 emotions of heart-refining technique. Before coming, Luo Feng had gathered some information. Among the best at the banquet in terms of music and illusion techniques were 3 experts, and this woman in green, named Yu Yuyi, came from a small town on the fringe of Flame-Wind ancient country, and was currently embroiled in a big trouble involving a general from Chu capital named Shui Kai. Places like Chu capital, you can't just avoid trouble if you want to, Luo Feng thought. When he first arrived in Chu capital, he stayed in seclusion and didn't provoke anyone, yet Marquis Chu Yuan, Marquis Chu Ji, and their 3 guest elders still banded together against him. Only by achieving transcendence of primal chaos realm could he truly rise above it all. Of the 3 music experts at the banquet, Luo Feng chose her, also intending to help her this one time. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh tilde tilde tilde. The woman in green stood there, surrounded by flowing water, using numerous streams as musical instruments, the sound emerging as if it were the natural sound of heaven and earth. This music, even aligning with the cosmic laws, further stirred Luo Feng's emotions. Luo Feng had already deployed the 7 emotions of heart-refining technique, immersing himself even deeper in his feelings. Moved by the emotions, he found himself weeping unexpectedly. The woman in green was surprised. How could listening to music bring someone to tears? She dared not stop, focusing only on performing the music and illusion technique. Throughout the musical illusions, Luo Feng didn't say stop, so she didn't dare to. This great Saint Luo, he seems easily moved by music. But at the discourse banquet, he didn't care at all. The woman in green, confident in her music and illusion technique, observed Luo Feng while performing. That's enough, Luo Feng suddenly spoke. The woman in green could only stop. Let's end it here for today. Luo Feng stood up and walked outside. Cultivators live too long and experience too much. Emotions easily become numb. 7 Emotions of Heart Refining Technique. While it can intensely stir emotions, over time and repeated intense stimulation of the emotions can also become numbing. So it should be used sparingly. 7 Emotions of Heart Refining is just an adjustment. The Great Destruction Heart Refining Technique is fundamental. Luo Feng's 7 Emotions of Heart Refining transitioned into the Great Destruction Heart Refining Technique. Accustomed to the painful tempering of his spiritual will, the continuous refinement also kept Luo Feng's spirit full of fighting spirit. How much is the fee? Morosa saw his master standing up, immediately waved to collect all the food and drink in front of him and his master, then turned to the woman in green. It's a great honor for Shallow Whisper Pavilion that great Saint Luo he could visit. There's no need for a fee, said the woman in green. Morosa frowned. The master doesn't like taking advantage. Speak, how much is the fee? 10 cosmic sands will suffice, the woman in green could only say. With a wave of his hand, Morosa sent out 10 cosmic sands, then swiftly followed Luo Feng as they left quickly. The woman in green immediately followed to see them off. She continued until Luo Feng and Morosa disappeared into thin air. Are you leaving just like that? The lady in green was somewhat agitated and also a bit apprehensive. Marquis Chu Yu's mansion. Brother Luo, he went to the Shallow Language Pavilion. Emperor Chu Yu naturally received the news, and with Luo Feng's current strength, Emperor Chu Yu was very concerned about every move of this guest elder. On one hand, he feared other first-class marquises might entice him, and on the other hand, he also worried about not having treated him well enough, which might deteriorate their relationship. Emperor Chu Yu knew well that even if they were once friends, it didn't mean they would always be friend. The relationship of friendship needs to be maintained. This brother Luo he, when he was in Huyang City, liked to listen to music. Moreover, he often became so immersed in it that he would occasionally lose his composure, laughed Emperor Chu Yu, recalling that it was precisely because of Luo Feng's lapse that some eternal true gods in Huyang City considered Luo Feng to have a weak spiritual will and deemed him an average eternal true god. This also led to Luo Feng's first act in Huyang City, where he seized the true god's heart of the vice president Lai Mo with one movement. At the Banquet of Philosophies, he listened to Yu Yuyi's music-driven illusion technique, and since he went there again in private, clearly he is quite fond of it. Emperor Chu Yu thought for a moment, then immediately instructed his trusted aide. Take my mansion's token and go to the Shallow Language Pavilion, advised Emperor Chu Yu. Yes, my lord, replied the trusted aide promptly. Luo Feng's mere visit to the Shallow Language Pavilion attracted the attention of many forces in Chu capital. Given their understanding of great Saint Luo he, known for despising evil and having few usual hobbies other than enjoying fine food, wine, and music, Yu Yuyi's name was also collected by many forces. Great Saint Luo he likes your music-driven illusion technique, which is a great opportunity for you. This is our Marquis Chu Yu Mansion's token. Show it if you run into trouble. You can also contact me directly, said the aide of the imperial clan's first-class marquis, whose status was quite high outside, as he, accompanied by several guards, delivered the token to Yu Yuyi at the Shallow Language Pavilion. Once the token was given, those aides left. Holding the token from Marquis Chu Yu's mansion, Yu Yuyi felt that all troubles were gone, completely relieved. In fact, even without this token, a transcendent being from the primal chaos realm coming to listen to her music-driven illusion technique was a message alone, powerful enough to intimidate even Xue Kai. Luo Feng's days in Chu capital were quite peaceful. If there was a time during the pinnacle of the primal chaos realm when many forces dared to provoke him or had conflicts of interest with him, now that Luo Feng had transcended the primal chaos realm, everyone, including those first-class marquises, was actively seeking to make good relations with him. Among the 7 first-class marquises under Emperor Chu's lineage, 6 are quite likable. Luo Feng judged based on intelligence and personal interactions, only Marquis Chu Yuan is somewhat mad. During this time, only Marquis Chu Yuan consistently avoided Luo Feng and never met him face to face. Luo Feng also knew that Marquis Chu Yuan, who had the royal bloodline of Thunder Ancient Country and was also leveraging the primordial bloodline in his cultivation, the root cause of his madness and fierceness was the path of his cultivation. Brother Luo he, Luo Feng suddenly received a message, "Hurry and prepare, the old ancestor's trusted aide has come." As Luo Feng, who was meditating in the quiet room, took in this news, he was startled. The old ancestor, naturally, was one of the 13 emperors of flame-wind ancient country, Emperor Chu. The coming of an emperor's trusted aide, what could it mean? According to the previous guesses by Emperor Chu Yu, the emperor might consider taking disciples. Sigh. Luo Feng quickly exited the quiet room and calmly awaited, sensing Luo Sa's approach as he immediately rushed to his side upon detecting Luo Feng leaving his retreat. "Master, did you leave your retreat so soon?" Luo Sa inquired. "A distinguished guest is coming soon," instructed Luo Feng, "be cautious." A distinguished guest. Realizing the implication, Luo Sa immediately stood by to wait. Shortly after, 9 figures appeared out of thin air in the high sky, one of whom was Emperor Chu Yu, while the other 8 figures were all clad in the armor of the Emperor Chu Palace's trusted aides, albeit in different styles. The leader among the 9 figures was a silhouette of black water, wearing black armor with blood-colored secret patterns. The old ancestor has 3 main trusted generals. "This one here is General Xian Jiao," introduced Emperor Chu Yu. "General Xian Jiao, this is guest official Luo He." General Xian Jiao was burly, with black water flowing slowly within his armor, his eyes of condensed black water deadly still, casting a glance at Luo Feng and Luo Sa, enveloping the master and servant in a suffocating aura. When observed, the world seemed to fall into dead silence, wrapping around oneself. According to intelligence, Emperor Chu has 3 major trusted generals, reputedly not cultivators but some very mysterious existences. Luo Feng, encountering General Xian Jiao for the first time, could feel a great disparity between the not a cultivator, yet so powerful. Luo Feng also knew that flame-wind ancient country harbored many secrets, and even the numerous opportunities granted by the mysterious Yuan were mostly monopolized by the 2 great ancient countries. "Master, this General Xian Jiao is terrifying. I feel that with one move I would be gone," Luo Sa communicated telepathically to Luo Feng. Luo Feng immediately saluted. "I've seen General Xian Jiao." These ordinary trusted aides were also eternal true gods, who could reach the strength of the primal chaos realm only with some powered augmentation. Luo He, General Xian Jiao looked at Luo Feng, his tone becoming slightly warmer. "The emperor is interested in taking you as a disciple. Would you be willing? If you are willing, then accompany me to the palace of Emperor Chu. If not, I will return to report." Luo Feng stood inside the cave mansion, looking up at General Xuanjiao in the sky, and without hesitation, he immediately said, "It's my fortune that Emperor Chu is willing to take me as his disciple, and I am naturally willing." Luo Feng had been prepared for Emperor Chu to take him as a disciple, and he had thought it over carefully. Among the 13 emperors of the imperial clan of Flame-Wind ancient country, Emperor Chu had terrifying strength, and the few recorded instances of his intervention were sweeps against other ancient existences. He was quite low-key and bore no infamy, mostly devoting himself to cultivation in seclusion. Becoming a disciple of Emperor Chu was something Luo Feng was willing to do. After all, he knew well that with the help of a master, he could avoid many detours. "Good, follow me." General Xuanjiao then showed a smile, waved his hand and, enveloping Luo Feng with an invisible wave, flew toward the palace of Emperor Chu together. "Brother Luo He, congratulations." Emperor Chu Yu congratulated him during the flight. "It's also thanks to Brother Chu Yu for bringing me to Chu capital." Luo Feng also expressed his thanks. "Ha ha. With Brother Luo his strength, even without me, you would rise rapidly," Emperor Chu Yu said. Soon, under the lead of General Xuanjiao, Luo Feng and the others arrived in front of the palace of Emperor Chu. "All of you withdraw. I'll take Luo He to meet the emperor," General Xuanjiao said. Yes, the trusted aides withdrew, and Emperor Chu Yu stood outside the palace of Emperor Chu with a slight smile, not following any further. Immediately after, Luo Feng entered the palace, which seemed to merge into the dark and chaotic, with General Xuanjiao. A moment later, Luo Feng and General Xuanjiao entered an ancient hall together, instantly seeing a burly figure sitting on the floor of the hall, this figure sitting there as if he were the center of the boundless universe. As if the heaven and earth were to perish, yet he would not. His breathing was even more terrifying than the might of heaven and earth. Looking at Luo Feng, it gave Luo Feng a sensation akin to facing the great Tao of life origin. Luo Feng understood that this person must be one of the 13 emperors of the imperial clan, Emperor Chu. Emperor, General Xuanjiao saluted. Luo, he has been brought here. Emperor Chu nodded slightly and General Xuanjiao immediately withdrew from the hall. The hall was then left with only Luo Feng and Emperor Chu. Luo he, Emperor Chu looked at Luo Feng with a smile. Recently, I've taken some time to understand your past. You come from the primordial cosmos? Luo Feng was surprised and did not hide it, immediately bowing. Yes, I indeed come from the primordial cosmos. Emperor Chu smiled approvingly. Creatures from the primordial cosmos are exceptionally weak. Growing from weakness to a true god is difficult. That you have reached the transcendence of primal chaos realm is indeed impressive. Don't be nervous. Countless ancestors of today's cultivators almost all came from the primordial cosmos. They came to the land of origin, and through endless years of propagation, we now have so many creatures, Emperor Chu said. The original natives of the land of origin almost all live in the region of the eastern extremes. Luo Feng also knew this. Let me ask you another question. Are you the reincarnation of a cultivator? Emperor Chu asked again. Although the flame-wind ancient country had clever means, they still could not break through the supreme rules. No, Luo Feng shook his head. Emperor Chu nodded. Among the 13 emperors, I have the fewest disciples, only 2. Emperor Chu looked at Luo Feng. In accepting disciples, I value talent and compatibility of temperaments. Your talent is good, and I like your character too, which is why I decided to take you as my disciple. Emperor Chu said, before you become a disciple, think it over carefully, whether you really want to become a disciple. Becoming a disciple is a significant cause and effect. The relationship between master and disciple is comparable to that of close blood relatives, Emperor Chu said. A master chooses his disciple, and a disciple also chooses his master. Think it over carefully. Once you become my disciple, the other pinnacle beings of the land of origin will no longer be able to take you in as a disciple. Luo Feng, of course, understood that the mentor-disciple relationship was significant. Yet, how many of the pinnacle beings in the land of origin were interested in him? Moreover, Luo Feng had his temperaments, some existences committing immense sins. Luo Feng himself did not wish to become a disciple under them. Disciple has thought it through clearly. Luo Feng immediately knelt down, touched his head to the ground, and made a grand salute. Disciple Luo Feng greets the master. Luo Feng? Emperor Chu was startled. Luo Feng is my real name, involving some karma, so I have always used the name Luo he. Since Luo Feng decided to become a disciple, he naturally no longer hid his real name. Ha ha ha, very well, Emperor Chu laughed upon hearing this. From today onwards, Luo Feng, you are now my third direct disciple. Luo Feng, do the karmas you're entangled with require my help to resolve? Emperor Chu asked. Not necessary, disciple can resolve them, Luo Feng said. Emperor Chu nodded in satisfaction. Since you are entangled in karma, I will also keep your real name confidential. Seeing his disciple resolve troubles on his own was something Emperor Chu was very pleased to see. Today you've sworn apprenticeship to me, and I've prepared 3 gifts for you. Emperor Chu looked at Luo Feng. The first gift is the 2 inheritances you chose, 8 Tribulations Life Form First Calamity and Extermination of 72 Blades Volume 1. Once you master them, you can get the following inheritances for free. Of course, the inheritances I can give you for free are those that do not surpass the ultimate realm of Godly King, Emperor Chu said. Luo Feng listened with surprise. Free access to these 2 inheritances up to the ultimate realm of Godly King? Currently, 8 Tribulations Life Form First Calamity and Extermination of 72 Blades Volume 1, both tips of the first realm of Godly King, are worth around 100,000 merit points each. If one were to progress further, the inheritance of the second realm of Godly King would require around 3 million merit points. The teachings of the third realm, the ultimate realm, even more, demands 1 billion merit points. To gain these dharma, some guest elders would even fight to the death for the flame-wind ancient country. 2 inheritances, worth around 2 billion merit points in total. As long as I reach the required realm, I can get them for free. This is the difference between outsiders and direct disciples. The second gift I have for you. Emperor Chu looked at Luo Feng, flipped his hand and he took out a stone box. As the box opened, it contained 10 pale red fruits. Just by smelling the fruit, Luo Feng felt his soul nourished, and his thoughts churning several times faster. These are primordial crystal spirit fruits. The ancestor once bestowed them to me, but now they are of little use to me, so I give 10 to you. These primordial crystal spirit fruits are grown from a fruit tree cultivated with primordial crystal jade. They have miraculous effects in nourishing the soul. After consumption, one's alignment with the supreme rules significantly improves, thus greatly enhancing one's comprehension, said Emperor Chu. This is not a product from within our origin world but exceedingly rare. Merit points can't even exchange them, so make sure you use them sparingly. I suggest you consume 5 fruits at the primal chaos realm and another 5 at the first realm of Godly King. Yes, Master. Luo Feng felt the deep care of his master. Emperor Chu looked at Luo Feng. What is your most commonly used weapon? Luo Feng flipped his hand and pulled out the blood shadow knife. This blade. Emperor Chu glanced at it. Is it a Godly King level blade embryo? Emperor Chu pondered briefly, then flipped his hand to take out a cluster of rainbow-colored mud, casually tossing it onto the blood shadow knife. The knife eagerly absorbed the colorful mud in the blink of an eye. Originally, your blade embryo was capped at a weapon of the first realm of Godly King, Emperor Chu said. Now, its potential has increased significantly, with the possibility of reaching the ultimate realm of Godly King. However, I've provided the main material. You will need to gather some supplementary materials yourself. Because nurturing a blade embryo is most crucially your personal endeavor. Here is the detailed method to nurture a weapon, said Emperor Chu as a beam of light fell upon Luo Feng, encoding the secret technique of weapon cultivation into him. Emperor Chu looked at Luo Feng. The ancestor decreed, even for a direct disciple, merit points must still be accumulated on one's own. Master has already done so much for his disciple. Luo Feng was very grateful. Each of the 3 gifts was of immense value. I am not adept at teaching disciples, Emperor Chu looked at Luo Feng. I am not skilled in the great Tao of life origin, so you will have to rely on yourself. As for the great Tao of destruction origin, it just happens to be my path too. If you have any confusions, you can come and ask me. Luo Feng nodded. Disciple understands. Do you have any questions now? Emperor Chu looked at Luo Feng. Not at the moment. Luo Feng shook his head. Joking to himself, his own cultivation of the great Tao of destruction origin was still very low, not even reaching the top-tier standard of the primal chaos realm. As he was still in a rapid growth phase, he decided to only inquire when truly faced with bottlenecks making progress difficult. Good, Emperor Chu nodded with a smile. As my direct disciple, there are many special missions you may choose from before they are assigned to members of the imperial clan and marquises. Understood, Luo Feng nodded. Go now, cultivate diligently, and become a Godly King soon. Among my disciples, none are yet Godly Kings, Emperor Chu remarked with emotion. Disciple will surely strive. Luo Feng bowed right away. Disciple takes his leave. Luo Feng then promptly exited the Grand Hall. Looking at the chaotic dimness outside the Grand Hall, Luo Feng felt somewhat exhilarated. The 10 primordial crystal spirit fruits given by Master Emperor Chu, just smelling them benefited his great cultivation immensely. What wonders would actually consuming them perform? Since arriving in the land of origin, this was the first time he had encountered such a rare treasure. Eager to begin, Luo Feng started his journey back, wanting to try one of the fruits first. Inside the Grand Hall, Emperor Chu watched Luo Feng leave. My third direct disciple, Emperor Chu watched and slightly shook his head. It's a pity that my ability is limited, unable to guide the disciples' cultivation properly. Like Emperor Qing among the 13 emperors, because his realm is high enough, even when teaching disciples of different paths, he could quickly pinpoint the problems of the disciples and guide them efficiently. What about him, Emperor Chu? He could only provide precious resources. For the rest, he had to rely on the disciples themselves. What does taking disciples amount to? Emperor Chu looked into the boundless universe beyond the Grand Hall. This origin world will eventually meet its end. By then, how many can survive? Even the ancestor is advancing in darkness. Emperor Qing too has embarked on this path, and he may well assist the ancestor in the future. While we 12 are indeed strong enough in the land of origin, if we leave this origin world, what are we really worth? And my disciples likely don't even have the qualifications to leave the origin world. Cherish the connections with them in this origin world. Emperor Chu gently shook his head, closed his eyes, and began to meditate. Luo Feng left the palace of Emperor Chu and returned to his own cave mansion. Master, Morosa had been waiting to greet him. Luo Feng smiled at him. I have taken the emperor as my mentor. Morosa immediately showed a look of joy. Although it was almost certain when General Xuanjiao came to invite him, Morosa was still worried that something unexpected might happen. After all, he was a sector beast and feared bringing trouble to his master. I'm going into seclusion now. In the coming time, unless it's something important, no one needs to be concerned, Luo Feng instructed, as he planned to consume the primordial crystal spirit fruit and naturally needed to focus completely on his cultivation. Apart from his master Emperor Chu, he would cut off all contact with the outside world. Of course, Morosa could still contact him through telepathy. During the seclusion, the primordial ancestor, Moyu Qingyang, and Emperor Chu Yu would temporarily be unable to contact him. Rest assured, Master, Morosa responded. Luo Feng had also left messages for the primordial ancestor and the others. Whoosh! Right then, Luo Feng had already headed to the quiet room. The master has taken the emperor as his mentor. Morosa was very excited. As a sector beast, he felt extremely uneasy in the land of origin. After all, apart from the sector beast of Qianmu Kingdom, the sector beasts throughout the history of the land of origin had all died. Once I become a pinnacle sector beast, and with the emperor backing the master, my situation should not be worse than that of the Qianmu Kingdom sector beast, Morosa thought. If some more powerful primal chaos realm corpses come my way, perhaps I can become a godly king. The body of the great Saint Bayu last time had greatly progressed Morosa's strength, but the bottleneck between the primal chaos realm and godly king was really difficult to break through. For Morosa, it also required a qualitative change in the sector within his body. Quiet room, a space within the Star Tower. Luo Feng looked at the pale red fruit in front of him. Its faint scent alone made the soul feel joyful and relaxed, and thought processes sped up several times faster. This is a rare treasure bestowed upon my mentor by the primogenitor Yang Feng, one that cannot even be nurtured within a source world. Luo Feng understood the value of such a treasure. To his mentor Emperor Chu, who already stood at the pinnacle of the land of origin and had the backing of primogenitor Yang Feng, they were able to know all of the land of origin's past and even glimpse traces of the future, understand many truths of the source world, and uncover many secrets beyond the source worlds. For Emperor Chu's perspective, he viewed things from a very long-term view, even considering the end of the source world. But for Luo Feng, the years were still endless. A reincarnation era in the primordial cosmos was very long, and even tens of thousands of reincarnation eras, under the supreme rules of the source world, were merely a period of time. Luo Feng couldn't see as far as Emperor Chu did, and he only thought about taking each step correctly. First, to climb step by step to the pinnacle of the land of origin, he could also repay his mentor's kindness and help his mentor, mountain-sitting guest, to take revenge. Having arrived at Chu capital, I have finally tasted the flavor of top resources, Luo Feng mused to himself. Before coming, he was too poor to even have a suitable godly king-level inheritance. Now, both 8 tribulations life form and extermination of 72 blades inheritances, these 2 inheritances surpassed the ultimate realm of God King, and their creators had very high realms. As for auxiliary cultivation resources, those imperial clan elites, direct disciples of godly kings, and so on, had been using such resources for a long time. Luo Feng had never come into contact with these types of resources in the past. Such a treasure. Luo Feng looked at the pale red fruit. Let's taste it. He took a gentle bite. The flesh was somewhat tough, but with Luo Feng's godly body strength, he easily chewed and swallowed the pieces, consuming the entire fruit in a few bites. Once inside his body, the flesh gradually decomposed, spreading energy that began to influence his soul. Chem. Luo Feng felt different. With his perfect divine body, Luo Feng's soul was already powerful. Combined with the spiritual will of the second realm of godly king, his thinking speed was already extremely fast. Yet at this moment, nourished by the fruit's energy, his soul's thought processes reached a standard more than 20 times faster than before. Moreover, his soul felt ethereal, and merely by contemplating the chapter of life spirituality in the first calamity of the 8 tribulations life form, previous confusions were swiftly understood. During past cultivation, enlightenment would only occasionally flash. Now my comprehension has greatly increased, and many puzzles are no longer puzzles. And my thought processes are more than 20 times faster. Is this the effect of truly top-tier resources from the land of origin aiding in cultivation? Luo Feng no longer dwelled on it and began to focus on understanding the inheritances. In that core location of the origin ground in the primordial universe, the divine power incarnation of Luo Feng was facing the grand and towering Great Tao of Life Origin. Great Tao of Life Origin, Luo Feng observed, and because he had consumed the primordial crystal spirit fruit, his consciousness observing the complete Great Tao of Life Origin was much more insightful than in the past, his thinking vastly accelerated, and what he saw of the Great Tao of Life Origin also changed. In his eyes, the Great Tao of Life Origin at first glance was a sinuous dragon with 24 claws. But upon closer observation, he saw a deeper essence. The outward form of this Great Tao of Life Origin actually contains 6 major branches, Luo Feng realized. Each branch was mysterious and unpredictable, and their perfect combination made them even more vast and complex. Just like the 10 fundamental laws, each one on its own is quite simple, and those below the true God can comprehend many aspects of it. But to integrate the 10 fundamental laws into one body, into the primal chaos laws, is something only those of the law lineage in the primal chaos realm can do. The same principle applies. The 6 major branches of the Great Tao of Life Origin, to fully comprehend any single branch, would be the first realm of Godly King. To fully realize all 6 branches isn't too hard. But to completely integrate the 6 branches into one, the difficulty immediately skyrocketed by an unknown multiple. Only by completely merging into one can it become a complete Great Tao of Life Origin, which is considered the ultimate realm of God King. The gap between the first realm of Godly King and the ultimate realm of God King is really too vast. Luo Feng now truly understood the difference between those ancient beings from the land of origin. The elite of the imperial clans from the 2 ancient countries had also consumed many resources, some of which were no less than the primordial crystal spirit fruit. However, the effectiveness of resources also depends on who consumes them. In the environment of the primordial cosmos where Luo Feng had only a vague sense of the laws, he was able to reach the level of an eternal true God. One can imagine his aptitude for understanding, and now, after consuming the primordial crystal spirit fruit and observing the Great Tao of Life Origin, he felt the continuous surge of insights. All 6 branches of the Great Tao of Life Origin were making progress. Time passed. Luo Feng was facing the Great Tao of Life Origin while contemplating the first calamity of the 8 tribulations life form and the extermination of 72 blades. Occasionally, he would also allow Morosa to display the mysteries of the Great Tao of Destruction Origin. During this cultivation process, Emperor Chu Yu, primordial ancestor, and Mo Yu Qingyang didn't come to disturb Luo Feng. Finally, the effect of the primordial crystal spirit fruit completely vanished. Luo Feng felt his soul becoming much heavier and murkier, and his thought processes slowed down. Having grown accustomed to the previously increased aptitude and quick thinking, Luo Feng felt somewhat uneasy. This one primordial crystal spirit fruit lasted a little over an era. Luo Feng stopped his cultivation, somewhat shocked. In just a little more than an era, I have improved this much. The 6 branches of the Great Tao of Life Origin and the 6 branches of the Great Tao of Destruction Origin all made comprehensive progress. Because the cultivation of the Great Tao of Destruction Origin required the help of Morosa's display of its mysteries, so the progress was much slower than that of the Great Tao of Life Origin. 12 branches progressed comprehensively. The first calamity of the 8 tribulations life form recorded 3 lineages: the body of life, the origin of life, and life spirituality. The first volume of the extermination of 72 blades recorded the heaven-splitting lineage and the dark heaven lineage. With the inheritance for these 5 lineages, progress was naturally faster. The heaven-splitting lineage and dark heaven lineage of the great Tao of destruction origin have both reached the top standards of the primal chaos realm. The body of life lineage and the origin of life lineage of the great Tao of life origin have also reached the top standards of the primal chaos realm. The life spirituality lineage has reached the pinnacle of primal chaos realm. Luo Feng was amazed. Even with a strong inheritance and sufficient talent in the primal chaos realm, it might take tens of thousands of eras to reach the pinnacle of the primal chaos realm. Luo Feng reckoned that without the primordial crystal spirit fruit, focusing on cultivation for 100 or 200 eras, he might only be able to reach his current realm. One primordial crystal spirit fruit, worth 100-fold effect. The most important thing is the improvement of comprehension. When you encounter a bottleneck, increasing comprehension makes breaking through the bottleneck much easier. Luo Feng understood that the primordial crystal spirit fruit was more suitable for use when breaking through bottlenecks. At this moment, Luo Feng distinctly felt that he had understood all the mysteries of the life spirituality branch. What he needed now was the last step to perfectly integrate it into one, forming a complete branch, and only then could he become a godly king. The land of origin has many at the pinnacle of primal chaos realm. Even in peripheral kingdoms, there are a lot such existences. Some who have obtained top resources can even cultivate to transcendence of the primal chaos realm. But they are unable to become godly kings. It's because merging all the mysteries into one is much more difficult than penetrating all the mysteries. Luo Feng understood the difficulty. Penetrating all mysteries belongs to the process of learning. By studying slowly, one will always make continuous progress. Merging into one, on the other hand, is a qualitative change. I have a total of 10 fruits. As per my master's instructions, I am to use 5 in the primal chaos realm and 5 in the first realm of godly king, Luo Feng thought, based on the effects of the first fruit. With the help of the first fruit, my realm has greatly improved, as has my strength. Next, I need to be patient, let the various branches accumulate gradually, and understand them slowly by myself until I reach the pinnacle of the primal chaos realm. When the 5 branches from the first calamity of the 8 tribulations life form and the first volume of the extermination of 72 blades have all reached the pinnacle of the primal chaos realm, I will then consume the second fruit. Luo Feng was very clear about the difficulty of becoming a godly king. Therefore, such primordial crystal spirit fruits must be used at the most critical moment. Only by not relying on external things and reaching the pinnacle of the primal chaos realm, can one hope to advance further with the help of external things. Sigh. Luo Feng left the quiet room, and as he looked around at the scenery, he saw the flowers and grass as if infused with endless vitality, growing rapidly. The leaves and branches of the big trees were full of boundless vitality, swaying as if to come alive. If I were to make further progress, I fear I could easily transform these ordinary flowers and trees, thought Luo Feng. Morosa, primordial ancestor, and Moyu Qingyang all hurried over, as Luo Feng had been in seclusion for a very long time. When they saw Luo Feng, they noticed that the plants and flowers around them were blooming, and the space around them was filled with the power of life. Master, Moyu Qingyang felt that his master was different somehow, but he couldn't say exactly where. Morosa, being of a high enough realm, felt that Luo Feng's present life breath was far more terrifying than before, even more terrifying than a sector beast like him. Why is Master's aura so terrifying? Morosa was secretly alarmed. Primordial Ancestor looked at Luo Feng and felt that Luo Feng's intangible aura even affected the operation of the illusionary universe constructed within him. When an individual is too powerful, it naturally affects the operation of heaven and earth, even affecting the operation of the illusionary universe within me. Luo Feng now seems much stronger than before he went into seclusion. Master, are you about to become a godly king? Morosa couldn't help but ask. Still a long way off, Luo Feng smiled. After being in seclusion for so long, I've lost all taste. Come on, let's go have a meal at Yu Jiufang's place. Yes, yes, yes. Morosa was delighted, and both Primordial Ancestor and Moyu Qingyan's eyes lit up. Yu Jiufang, that's a primal chaos realm being who has mastered cooking. His culinary delights are no less than many rare treasures. Primordial Ancestor, Moyu Qingyang, and the others were also very intrigued. As the highest culinary luminary in the Chu capital, it's not easy to get him to cook. It is only when god kings and transcendents of primal chaos realm step in that Yu Jiufeng would warmly entertain. For over an epoch, Luo Feng focused on his cultivation after consuming the primordial crystal spirit fruit. Now that the effects of the spirit fruit had worn off, Luo Feng became more leisurely, enjoying fine cuisine at Yu Jiufeng's place and visiting the Shallow Whisper Pavilion to listen to music and experience illusion techniques with the 7 emotions of heart-refining method. The various powers in Chu capital also noticed that Great Saint Luo he was venturing out more often. One day, Luo Feng went alone to the Flame Wind Association's Dark Hall in Chu capital. Great Saint Luo he, the master of the Flame Wind Association's Dark Hall, greeted him personally. The master was an ordinary-looking woman clad in golden robes. She seemed inconspicuous with her aura concealed, but in reality, she was Marquis Xin Hua, a pinnacle existence of the primal chaos realm. It was exceedingly rare for a non-imperial clansman to be conferred the title of Marquis in the Flame Wind ancient country. It's Great Saint Luo his first visit to our Flame Wind Pavilion since arriving in Chu capital, the woman in golden robes said with a smile. Please, take a seat. The two sat opposite each other. An attendant brought over some fine wine and fruit. Marquis Xin Hua, Luo Feng said, savoring the wine, I'm here to sell some treasures this time. Oh. Marquis Xin Hua smiled. Given that Great Saint Luo he is a direct disciple of an emperor, our Flame Wind Pavilion will certainly offer the highest purchase price. For regular clients selling treasures, the Flame Wind Association's Dark Hall would also drive a hard bargain to ensure a high profit margin. But behind the Flame Wind Pavilion were a group of emperors and some godly kings from the Flame Wind ancient country. As a direct disciple of an emperor, special treatment was naturally afforded. Take a look first, Luo Feng said, waving his hand, bringing out some of the spoils of war he had obtained from his last battle where he fought against 5 opponents. 3 scrolls emanating terrifying auras, some broken golden hoops, 3 black nails, and a long weapon staff. Luo Feng even brought out Marquis Liu Yin's blade and Great Saint Beiyu's double-edged axe. Marquis Xin Hua broke into a smile upon seeing the long weapon staff. She recognized it at a glance. It was the godly king weapon of Marquis Chu Yuan, and its value was much higher. This double-edged axe. Marquis Xin Hua's expression changed slightly. The death of Great Saint Beiyu remained a mystery to this day. Now seeing the weapon of Great Saint Beiyu, Marquis Xin Hua understood. It seems that Luo he was the one who killed Great Saint Beiyu. Every transaction in the Flame Wind Association's Dark Hall was recorded and confidentiality for the client was mandatory. Even though Marquis Xin Hua was the master of the Chu capital branch, if she leaked any information, the Dark Hall would impose severe punishments. The Flame Wind Pavilion's widespread presence across much of the land of origin was due to its strict rules and regulations. An invisible glow enveloped the treasures in the Dark Hall of the Flame Wind Pavilion, naturally appraising them and providing a price. Great Saint Luo he is truly formidable, Marquis Xin Hua sighed. Great Saint Beiyu was among the top combatants in the primal chaos realm and, being proficient in the great Tao of life origin, had an extremely strong ability to preserve his life. Yet he still fell at the hands of Luo he. Luo Feng simply smiled, neither confirming nor denying. We will not leak any client's transaction information, Marquis Xin Hua assured as she looked at the items. These 3 formation diagrams are quite valuable, and the Dark Hall of the Flame Wind Pavilion can purchase them for 260 billion cosmic sand. The one who actually desired these 3 formation diagrams the most was their original owner, Saint Tianyu. However, after that one battle, even Saint Tianyu had become very poor and simply couldn't afford them. These golden hoops are broken and need repair, said Marquis Xin Hua. We can only pay 30% of the price, which comes to 90 billion cosmic sand. Luo Feng muttered to himself silently. He had held back somewhat at the time. If he had let loose, the hoops would have been completely shattered. These 3 black nails can also be counted as 90 billion cosmic sand. As for the blade and double-edged axe, together they can be counted as 90 billion cosmic sand. Added up, that comes to 530 billion cosmic sand, declared Marquis Xin Hua. Luo Feng nodded as he listened. He had only brought out some of the important treasures. Many smaller spoils of war were not presented as their combined value was limited. As for this most important godly king weapon, Marquis Xin Hua pointed at the long staff. This is Marquis Chu Yuan's godly king weapon. It's a weapon of the first realm of godly king tier and is relatively simple to forge. According to the purchase price of the Dark Hall of the Flame Wind Pavilion, it's merely the lowest at 500 billion cosmic sand. Luo Feng knew that even though they were both godly king tier weapon secret treasures, armor and bladed weapons naturally varied in value. Places like the Star Tower, that are akin to palaces, are even more valuable. In critical moments, one could hide inside such a palace-class secret treasure to escape. Of course, Luo Feng's physical body was so strong that no one had yet forced him to retreat into the Star Tower to escape with his life. Godly king weapons could even attract godly kings as buyers, continued Marquis Xin Hua. I suggest you put this long staff on consignment through the Dark Hall of the Flame Wind Pavilion. With your status, Great Saint Luo He, our Dark Hall will only charge the minimum consignment fee of 5%. The starting bid for consignment will be 600 billion cosmic sand. You'll definitely earn more than if the Dark Hall purchased it outright. Then let's consign it, said Luo Feng. The consignment period can be as short as 1 day or as long as an epoch. Marquis Xin Hua looked at Luo Feng. How long would you like to set for your consignment, Great Saint Luo He? 10,000 days will suffice, responded Luo Feng. An epoch in the land of origin was 10 billion days. There was no need for such a lengthy consignment. Marquis Xin Hua smiled. Rest assured, we will inform all our important clients about this consignment. Those who can afford a godly king weapon in the land of origin are not too numerous. The news of the consignment of the godly king weapon spread among numerous clients across the land of origin. Within Chu capital, it stirred some waves as the various factions also knew that this was once Marquis Chu Yuan's weapon. My weapon is being consigned. Marquis Chu Yuan clenched his wine glass until it crumbled into powder, his eyes flashing with thunder. This Luo He was angry, but he had been utterly defeated in their last encounter. Marquis Chu Yuan immediately contacted his most trusted friend, Marquis Chu Ji. Chu Yuan, are you looking for me because of your weapon? Marquis Chu Ji was well aware of his brother's temperament. Big brother, that's my weapon. If he hadn't put it up for consignment, then fine, but now that he has openly consigned it, I must buy it back, Marquis Chu Yuan said through gritted teeth. My weapon, ending up in the hands of other cultivators, would be a disgrace. Marquis Chu Ji responded, all right, I'll help you. I can only muster 500 billion cosmic sand on my end, said Marquis Chu Yuan. When it comes to the bidding, I estimate I'll need to borrow some from you, big brother. Sure, Marquis Chu Ji replied. Even as an imperial-level marquis of the imperial clan, they had to consume vast resources for cultivation. For Marquis Chu Yuan, to muster 500 billion cosmic sand was already a matter of exhausting all possibilities. To need more, they could only borrow. Time passed, day by day. Primal Chaos crystals and Primal Chaos stones could naturally form within the Primal Chaos ruins. But cosmic sand had to be condensed by godly kings through cultivation. Each grain of cosmic sand contains pure power, and within each grain lies the embryonic form of a universe. Even for godly kings, it requires careful cultivation to condense. Cosmic sand has many uses. It could be used to refine the bloodlines of eternal true gods, to set up formations, and to cultivate heaven and earth's rare treasures. The most critical use is to shatter the cosmic sand to observe its most essential Great Tao's composition. Each grain of cosmic sand must possess at least a complete branch of the Great Tao to form. Therefore, cosmic sand was quite valuable. Even godly kings, when cultivating some unfamiliar branch of the Great Tao, would purchase some cosmic sand. ********************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************** July, the consignment period ended. Luo Feng also arrived at the Flame Wind Association's Dark Hall, where Hall Master Xin Hua welcomed him warmly. Great Saint Luo He, this consignment of the Godly King weapon has reached the final price of 700 billion cosmic sand. After deducting the 0.5% fee, That leaves 665 billion cosmic sand. Luo Feng was quite satisfied. For such a precious weapon, consignment indeed was far more worthwhile. Do you want the actual cosmic sand, or shall we keep it deposited in our Flame Wind Association's Dark Hall for now? Hall Master Xinhua asked. Keep it deposited for now, Luo Feng responded. By the way, I need to purchase perfect tier materials from primal chaos layer creatures. A quantity exceeding 1 in a millionth of the body will do. For each set of materials, I offer a price of 100 billion cosmic sand. The materials from perfect primal chaos layer creatures were extremely hard to obtain. Luo Feng chose the simplest method, exceedingly high bounty rewards. A normal godly king weapon usually starts at 500 billion cosmic sand. His offer of 100 billion cosmic sand was just for a bit of primal chaos layer creature material. Surely, it would tempt some. I have already obtained a set of materials from the golden feather godbird, Luo Feng said. I need only one set of materials from each kind of perfect tier primal chaos layer creature. This bounty is limited to 10 kinds of perfect tier primal chaos layer creatures. Is there a time limit for this bounty? Hall Master Xinhua asked. None. The bounty ends once 10 kinds of materials are collected, Luo Feng said. Hall Master Xinhua understood. The bounty handling fee is 0.5% of the cost. That's fine. Luo Feng did not mind. In this era, his life spirituality lineage had reached the pinnacle of the primal chaos realm, and both his body of life lineage and origin of life lineage had reached the top level of the primal chaos realm. Even so, as Luo Feng pondered the feathers of the golden feather godbird, he still had many doubts about Trinity comprehension. A creature like the golden feather godbird, with ordinary wisdom, deploying only threshold moves of the primal chaos realm, could still possess the strength of the pinnacle of the primal chaos realm. It showed how terrifyingly powerful these perfect tier primal chaos layer creatures could become when cultivated to the limit. If his galaxy transformation method could also reach the unity tier, to its perfect extremity, a single galaxy blade light deploying a common move would have the strength of the pinnacle of the primal chaos realm. Then what would happen if 10,000 blade lights surged overwhelmingly forward? What kind of power would that be? Even transcendent beings of the primal chaos realm or those who have just ascended to the godly king tier might simply be cleaved until their godly bodies dispersed. Elevating the transformation method to the level of perfect tier primal chaos creatures is also a use of the great Tao of life origin. Luo Feng saw the prospects of this path and naturally would continue down it. 100 billion cosmic sand just for a set of perfect tier primal chaos layer creature materials. When the Flame Wind Association's Dark Hall passed the message on to important clients, quite a few were tempted. Even for transcendent beings of the primal chaos realm, earning 100 billion cosmic sand would take quite a bit of effort. In Wanjie Kingdom at this moment. Inside Wanjie Kingdom, there was a world that had been developed. Within it were many special creatures kept, godly king-level exotic beasts and perfect tier primal chaos layer creatures, along with some specially cultivated terrifying beings. Our bodily materials are needed. A towering rock creature and a silver-hoofed exotic beast both looked at their keeper. The keeper, a man in a yellow robe, said with a chuckle, "We only need portions of your body, exceeding 1 in a millionth of it. The materials sold cannot be actively annihilated. It seems like he wants to study our bodily materials." The towering rock creature and the silver-hoofed exotic beast both eyed their keeper. Having reached the perfect tier of the primal chaos layer, their wisdom was quite high, and they were capable of deploying some primal chaos realm threshold moves. As long as you both agree, for the future 10,000 eras, I will present each of you with a vessel of blood spirit wine every era, the keeper said. Matters like this had to be consented to actively by the perfect tier primal chaos layer creatures. Otherwise, with just a thought, the materials would be annihilated. 2 vessels of blood spirit wine, the silver-hoofed exotic beast raised 2 hoof tips. 3 vessels, the towering rock creature glanced at the silver-hoofed exotic beast. They had been captured from the primal chaos layer by Wanjie Kingdom's ruler long ago, and had been kept for a long time. Bodily materials? They did not care. What they wanted were pleasures like fine food and drink. 1 vessel of blood spirit wine is already the best I can do, The keeper shook his head continuously. After tough negotiations, the towering rock creature and the silver-hoofed exotic beast sold some of their bodily materials for the price of 1.5 vessels of blood spirit wine per era, with a provision of continuous supply for 10,000 eras. ***. Thanks to the following Alliance hierarchs for their recent tips: Cynthia Baby, Serenity is the state of hope, Butterfly Pea Flower, You Are My Despicable, The End of the Horizon, Storyteller Arzong, I Aim Zetsu, Carl King. This video will end here.